There comes a time when all that you are is lost in the midst of a frenzy. And when you're part of the most revered motorcycle club in the world, then that moment can utterly break you. Well, this is what happened to a few Hells Angels members who fumbled and almost cost the club's existence. Their story is marred with violence, deceit, and an unwavering yearn to come out on top. Only they never succeed, and in their place, the Hells Angels MC come out on top, domineering over everyone who dare stands on their way. This is the story of the men who almost destroyed the Hells Angels. On November 14, 2018 at 5:30 p.m., a seemingly innocent husband and his wife get handed the death penalty at a Thai court. This news leaves the world drowning in shock as the father of two is frog-marched out of the court to serve his sentence. Unbeknownst to many, these two are not as innocent as they seem. The FIFO caterer, Luke Cook, is a close acquaintance of the most wanted Aussie Hells Angels, Wayne Schneider. The crime? Attempted smuggling of $300 million worth of meth from China into Thailand en route to Australia. But how does a simple hotelier man get entangled with the ruthless Hells Angels, and just how deep does this drug smuggling ring go? Strap up for a ride of a lifetime as we reveal what happens when you mess around with the Hells Angels, especially their drugs. Australian authorities are cracking up on drug smugglers. Top on the list is Wayne Schneider, a Hells Angels member notoriously known for smuggling huge amounts of drugs into Australia. He has 375 intelligence entries and 8 outstanding warrants on his back. But that won't stop him from running his drug smuggling business, certainly not when he's found some innocent souls to recruit. As Australian police continue to unearth drug smuggling hotstops, they get a wind of Wayne Schneider's meth lab, located in the southwest Sydney suburbs of Narellan and Catherine Fields. 2 days prior to the police getting a search warrant for his labs, Wayne makes a run, boarding a plane to Thailand, his new home. The next day, Australian police find the labs, but by then Schneider was on the opposite side of the world. 2 years later, Wayne meets up with another Australian fugitive, Antonio Bagnato. Antonio had fled Australia after he was involved in the August 11, 2014 murder of Mr. Dillon, who was 25 years old. Dillon was killed over a debt owed to him by a member of St. Michael Fight Club, a little-known club in the Australian underworld that Bagnato seems so fond of. Bagnato's cousin, Diego Carbone, was supposed to be in the same flight to Thailand as Bagnato, but due to technical problems, missed his flight. The police catch up with him, and he's convicted of the murder of Dillon. You would think Bagnato would reform and focus on his talents, kickboxing. But the criminal underworld has a way of keeping its tenants hooked to its adrenaline-spiking activities, so Bagnato easily makes a connection with Wayne Schneider, with whom they had done several underdeals back in Sydney. By now, Wayne Schneider has already established a Hells Angels chapter in Pattaya, Thailand. The two begin a fateful friendship that would see one of them kill the other, and the other one embroiled in death row. The question remains, why would two best friends turn on each other? What follows is akin to a scene in the famous PlayStation game, GTA. Back in Pattaya, Thailand, Antonio Bagnato has established a gym, Tony's Gym. At face value, the gym is just another workout and training center. But that's not the end of it. In between the dark crevices of the building, a sinister truth is being hidden. A truth that will lead Luke Cook to his own entrapment, a life-changing ordeal that will see him attempt to smuggle $300 million worth of meth, also known as ice. But how does a loving father of two get involved with the inner workings of a gang? To understand this, let's look at Luke's background. Cook is an offshore worker and runs a bar and guest house in the coastal Thai town of Pattaya. One day, Antonio Bagnato comes to his bar, and he rents out one of the rooms on the top floor. Cook befriends him and builds a camaraderie with him, a decision that he would live to regret. Antonio Bagnato and Schneider become frequent guests to Luke Cook's bar. They also hang around Tony's gym with another Aussie, Douglas Shoebridge. As friends would do, Luke Cook opens up about his failing business. It's at this point that Wayne Schneider, the notorious Australian Hells Angels drug smuggler, spots an opportunity of a lifetime. To him, Luke Cook is the ultimate candidate to deliver his parcel. What makes him a perfect drug trafficker? He is married. has 2 sons, owns some failing businesses, and is desperate for some quick cash. So what's to stop him from this business opportunity from his friends? Nothing. So the deal is set. Luke is to get $10 million from Wayne Schneider and import on his behalf half a ton of meth into Thailand from China. Amidst the inky blackness of the night, a clandestine exchange is set to take place in the South China Sea. Luke Cook, who is a seller of boats and yachts, understands his assignment. He is to sail into international waters where no country laws apply, do the exchange, and smuggle the drugs into Thailand. Simple, right? His cargo gets delivered far into the international waters. A Chinese trawler nicknamed Jomandi comes holding within its icy depths a sinister cargo destined for an offshore yacht. But this is no ordinary transaction, and soon Luke will find out why Schneider couldn't carry out the smuggling himself. The huge consignment belongs to the dreaded Hell's Angels. Whether Luke knows this or not remains to be debated. The exchange takes place. Luke is handed 4 yellow sacks marked with red Chinese characters. He's supposed to head back to shore in the Satahip district of Chonburi province. On his way back, a spooky border patrol yacht spots him. Like a deer caught in the headlights, he freezes. As the border patrol tries to get in touch, he quickly drops the bags into the ocean and disappears into the dark abyss of the night. But remember, those were no ordinary bags. They carry meth estimated to be worth $300 million destined for Australia. How will a bar owner and modest businessman raise such an amount to repay the dreaded Hell's Angels? This is where the rubber meets the road. The cover-up. Intrigued by the allure of hidden treasures, Shoebridge finds himself aboard the yacht, his fate inexplicably entwined with that of Cook. After the border patrol spiked Cook to throw the bags in the ocean, he has to find a way to retrieve the meth. Cook uses his web of deception to convince his friend Shoebridge, a professional diver, that he's lost some gold in the ocean. Shoebridge, intrigued by the possibility of endless wealth, deep dives into this murky underworld. His work? To retrieve the 4 yellow sacks now washed ashore by the waves. But as the hours wore on, Cook's facade began to unravel, revealing a far more sinister truth. Amidst slurred words and a haze of aggression, he confesses to the real nature of their mission. It was not gold that they sought, but rather hundreds of kilos of the deadliest treasure of all, ice, the crystalline demon that ensnares minds and destroys lives. Shoebridge bursts out in fury at the thought of being lured into a deadly game. The realization that he had been used, that he could have unwittingly aided in the hunt for drugs, gnawed at his soul. Cook is paralyzed by panic. The debt he has accrued will be a ticking time bomb, and the vengeful specters of his past would soon come knocking at his door. The clock is ticking, and their secret cargo, a half a ton of ice, has gone missing. Anything that could go wrong has actually gone wrong. It's here that Antonio Bagnotta's name once again pops up as his old-time friend. Bagnotta will help them clear up the mess they put themselves into. Or will he? Let's find out. Wayne Schneider demise. News of this mishap reaches Wayne Schneider in his perfectly named clubhouse, Angel's Place. Obviously, he doesn't take the news well.
You have to bring back my money or do the job you were assigned to do.
Of course, there's no way Cook can raise such an amount of money. So a deadly plan is designed, one that would be recorded vividly on Schneider's CCTV back at his Pattaya villa. Now let's step back in time to November 2015. Sufan Fithakwang, a diligent security guard, is on duty at the upscale Pattaya residential complex. His job is to patrol the area and ensure its safety. As he makes his rounds, a sudden commotion catches his attention. He then follows the sounds to a scene that would forever change the course of his life. 5 men, all but one concealed behind silk balaclavas to shield their identities, are ruthlessly assaulting another man. This unfortunate soul is being forcibly bundled into the back of a white Toyota utility vehicle. The victim is none other than Hell's Angel Wayne Schneider, a man hailing from the rugged streets of Blacktown in Sydney's western suburbs. Schneider had climbed the ranks of the criminal underworld, specializing in the production and distribution of substantial quantities of methamphetamines. His name was notorious, recognized by the Australian Bagnotta and Luke Cook arrested. After the CCTV footage is released, Bagnotta, who was the only one without a mask while abducting Schneider, is tracked down and arrested. Apparently, he's crossed the Cambodian border and is in a cheap lodging when police get a whim of his whereabouts. And guess who helped him escape? Our man, Luke Cook. He told the court how he had taken a taxi, then a bus, inching closer to the Cambodian border with each passing mile. However, the truth is far more complex than Antonio's testimony suggests. Unbeknownst to him, the Australian Luke Cook has already been entangled in the web of this chilling tale. In a separate Pattaya court case from the previous year, Cook has already been convicted of aiding and abetting. His crime? Assisting the Bagnotta family in their escape to the Cambodian border, not in a nondescript bus, but in a private car. Surprisingly, Cook's 3-month jail sentence is suspended for 2 years, just because he has pleaded guilty to his role in this sinister escapade. The plot thickens further as another witness emerges, a young man named Tyler Gerard, just 22 years old, who had experienced the horrors of that night firsthand. Gerard testifies that he too had been in the car that carried the Bagnotta family to the Cambodian border. In a voice laced with apprehension, he reveals the truth. Luke decided he would take us to Cambodia, Gerard confesses. The court listens in rapt attention as he unravels the events leading up to their escape. So apparently, Gerard had broken his collarbone in a motorcycle accident mere days before Wayne Schneider's tragic murder. Antonio Bagnotta had come to his aid, helping him find a hospital and extending a hand of friendship in their dire circumstances.
About 9 hours after the kidnapping on $30 November, Bagnotta called me and asked for my help to flee. He said he was scared. He helped me with my arm. He was my friend, so I helped him.
As the pieces of this chilling puzzle fell into place, the courtroom remained gripped by the harrowing account of a night filled with fear, deception, and unlikely alliances. The $300 million arrest. How did the police link Luke Cook and his wife to the $300 million drug case? To understand this, let's recap the police facts. It all begins with a diabolical plan hatched in the darkest corners of China. The goal is to flood the world with a deadly wave of narcotics. Their sinister ambitions find an unlikely ally in the notorious Hells Angels bikers gang, nestled in the heart of Australia. To fund this nefarious scheme, they turn to a man named Mr. Schneider. A shadowy figure with connections to both sides of the law, was the linchpin of this malevolent operation. He creates a front company called Global Marine Solution, a seemingly innocuous facade for their illicit dealings. With the stroke of a pen, Schneider's company acquires a vessel of treacherous intent, the yacht Jomandi. But this yacht was destined for a journey that would lead to chaos and despair. The yacht, like a pawn in a deadly game, changed hands, falling into the possession of Mr. Cook and his enigmatic Thai wife, Miss Kanyarat. Little do they know that this yacht would become the vessel of their own destruction. The fateful date of June 15, 2015, loomed ominously on the horizon. That day, the yacht Jomandi, under the command of Mr. Cook and accompanied by Mr. Gerard, set sail from a marina in Pattaya. Their mission: come back with a sinister Chinese craft offshore and take delivery of hundreds of kilograms of crystal methamphetamine, a poison that could corrupt souls and entire nations. The yacht cuts through the tranquil waters oblivious to the storm that is brewing. A routine patrol of the Royal Thai Navy, like an unexpected tempest, intercepts their path. Panic courses through their veins as they face a dire choice: risk capture with the drugs aboard, or make a desperate bid to escape the clutches of justice. In a moment of recklessness, they chose the latter, and bales of narcotics plunge into the unforgiving sea, swallowed by its depths. The consequences of their actions ripple across the coastal areas. It isn't long before the authorities are hot on their trail, launching a relentless police investigation that would bring them to their knees. In December 2017, Luke Cook and his wife are captured at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi airport while returning to Thailand from Australia. What follows are 4 years of pain, anguish, and a relentless pursuit for justice. Luke and his wife endure a gruesome court grilling that see them get the death penalty. They launch an appeal which is thwarted by clandestine police processes that see them denied legal representation. In the midst of this chaos, a father's anguished cries for justice rings out. Paul Cook, Luke Cook's father, maintains that his son is innocent and is only in the clasps of the authorities because of a friend-come-foe row. Douglas Shoebridge, a Scotsman with a dark past, who was once an associate of Luke Cook and the main witness against Luke Cook, is a human trafficker, exploiting vulnerable souls and importing African prostitutes onto the unforgiving streets of Bangkok. Mr. Cook vehemently claims that his son's arrest and conviction were inexorably tied to the nefarious activities and damning evidence against Mr. Douglas Shoebridge. An inquest into the death of Mr. Schneider in New South Wales unveils shocking connections, implicating Shoebridge in the gruesome torture and murder of the former crime boss. The rented house where Schneider's life had met a grisly end bore the haunting imprint of Shoebridge's malevolence. In the twisted tapestry of crime, deception, and vengeance, the players' fates remain uncertain, and the world watches in awe as this dark drama plays out on the international stage. But as fate would have it, a lobbyist group and 2 Australian parliamentarians plead with the Thai Supreme Court and demand release of Luke Cook and his wife, citing a mistrial. Their 4-year ordeal comes to an end, leaving them with inexplicable horrors and an eternal reminder to never mess with the Hells Angels. Do not join them if you're not all in, or as they like to put it, angels forever, forever angels. Shifting our narrative, we turn our attention to a biker boss who waged a relentless battle against the Hells Angels. Amidst the roar of motorcycles, he emerges as a symbol of resistance and an embodiment of the pursuit of a distinct identity.
The murder of Yearn Mukuk, the boss of Hells Angels Gießen, sent shockwaves through the biker scene. He was ruthlessly gunned down with 13 shots on the club premises. The motives behind this brutal crime remained shrouded in mystery. However, investigations revealed a world filled with intrigues, power struggles, and secret meetings between the German Hells Angels and their influential American allies. Over the years, the notorious biker club has strategically expanded its reach on a global scale. Leveraging their reputation as an outlaw brotherhood, the Hells Angels have established charters and forged alliances in various countries, making them a truly international organization. From the United States, their birthplace, to Europe, Australia, and even parts of Asia, the Hells Angels have left their indelible mark on the global biker scene. Through a combination of relentless dedication, strategic networking, and often controversial means, the Hells Angels have successfully extended their presence and built an extensive network of chapters worldwide, cementing their status as one of the most powerful and notorious motorcycle clubs in history. Yearn Mukuk had amassed powerful enemies within the club. According to our research, he had fallen out with the influential American Hells Angels. Despite the Hells Angels' claims of independence, a hidden hierarchy exists, with its center in the United States, the birthplace of the bikers. But how did this fatal confrontation between Yearn Mukuk and the American Hells Angels come to pass? A glimpse into the past unveils a web of rivalries and power games. Nearly 2 years ago, Mukuk staged a coup against the long-standing member Schnitzel Walter, sparking turmoil within the entire club. According to the Hells Angels' own rules, Mukuk should have been expelled for this attack. However, not only was he allowed to remain, but he also opened his own charter in Gießen, an act of defiance that reflected the influence of Turkish bikers led by Neko Arabaci, who had filled the void left by Frank Hanebuth's arrest in Mallorca. Within the world of the Hells Angels, internal conflicts and members who break the rules are not taken lightly. The club operates under a strict code of conduct, and violations can result in severe consequences. When faced with internal disputes or members who have crossed the line, the Hells Angels employ their own system of justice. This can range from disciplinary actions, such as fines and temporary suspensions, to more drastic measures, including expulsion or even getting rid of members. The club values loyalty and unity above all else, and any actions deemed detrimental to the Brotherhood's interests are dealt with swiftly and decisively. This unwavering approach ensures that the Hells Angels maintain their reputation as a formidable force, not only within the biker community, but also in their dealings with rival clubs and outside threats. The American Hells Angels were well aware of Germany's significance to their operations. In secret meetings, they attempted to maintain peace between the old-school German bikers and the young Turkish-originated up-and-comers. However, driven by insatiable thirst for power, Aygun Mukuk ignored warnings and appeals for diplomacy. The Americans grew tired of tolerating Aygun's escapades. The consequence? They severed ties with him for good. For the members of Hell's Angels, it was clear that Aygun's days within the Brotherhood were numbered. But who had planned such a cruel fate for him? Was it mere coincidence that the Americans' decision coincided with Frank Hainbuth's visit to his homeland? Speculations arose in the biker scene that Hainbuth might reclaim control, with the Americans regaining dominance. The murder of Aygun Mukuk was not only the end of a man, but also a symbol of the dark side of the biker scene, a world of power, betrayal, and deadly intrigues. The truth behind his death still lies hidden, but investigators remain determined to shed light on this ominous chapter of Hell's Angels.
In all the years that the Hells Angels have existed, one man almost brought down the entire club. His story morphs from an inspirational motorcycle club leader to a traitor fueled by his disdain for the club he subscribes to. This man has single-handedly put tens of Hells Angels members behind bars, thanks, and gotten away with it. Who is he and how did he do that? From being brought up like any other child to working as a bouncer as a teenager, then going ahead and rising through the ranks of the Hells Angels, David Atwell's life is the embodiment of a roller coaster, and it doesn't just end there.
Dave Atwell lived the life.
But Dave's was different.
My life with the Hells Angels and why I turned against them.
His story switches gears when he becomes the highest-ranking member to ever betray the Hells Angels. Yes, you heard that right. What pushes him into a heaven-sent informant for law enforcement? Why does he find it easy to take down numerous members of his former clan? Well, his story is like a highway of secrets, and today, we shall reveal why this man decided to betray his own club. Hold on to your helmets and dear hearts and prepare to be overwhelmed by this roaring betrayal. Where it all begins. In 1965, David Atwell is born in Scarborough, a Toronto suburb. He is brought up in a loving middle-class family, and joining a biker club doesn't cross his mind until he finishes high school. At the age of 18, Atwell has already worked in several clubs as a bouncer thanks to his body build and intimidating frame, and he moves to become a security guard. Atwell meets his mentor, Jim, who flags him as a natural and encourages him to train professionally as a bodyguard and security guard. While working as a guard at the Flacon Nest nightclub in the 1990s, he encounters a biker club for the very first time. The life of a biker. Members of a Toronto outlaw biker club, the Paradise Riders, often frequent the club where Atwell works as a guard, and in his interaction with them, he is recruited by their secretary. Even before he joins the club, Atwell is already popular with the leaders who see him as the perfect definition of a biker, and the vice chairman offers to sponsor him to become a member. He's now known as Shaky within the club, after some members state that his chances of being successful as a biker are shaky at best. However, he soon proves them wrong after being promoted from a hang-around to the second level. A prospect. At this time, the Paradise Riders are just a small club, so when the chance to join a bigger club comes around, most of them, including the leadership, go with it. In 2000, the then Canadian Hells Angels national president, Walter Stadnick, whom we've covered in our latest video, From Nobody to the Hells Angels President, invites the Paradise Riders to join the club, patch for patch, meaning that all members keep their positions and ranks. As Atwell recalls,
There was a vote, and 51% of the Paradise Riders decided to join the Hells Angels. The other 49% could remain Paradise Riders, and many did. My friends were part of the 51%, so I went with them.
On 29th December 2000, a big joining ceremony is held at the Hells Angels Mother Chapter Clubhouse in Sorel. Atwell runs late, and when he arrives, he is forced by the Paradise National President to serve his new masters by cleaning tables and getting drinks and food for the full patches. The party ushers in a new dawn in the world of outlaw biker clubs, as it is a mass patchover where a total of 168 bikers from the Ontario outlaw biker gangs such as Satan's Choice, the Vagabonds, the Lobos, the Last Chance, the Paradise Riders, and some of the loners join the Hells Angels. Overnight, Greater Toronto goes from having no Hells Angels to having the highest number of Hells Angels chapters in the world. According to Atwell, the new chapters, such as the Ontario Hells Angels, are expected to be submissive to the long-standing ones, with some of them even going to the extent of learning French and speaking in French accents just to impress the Quebec Angels. For Atwell, the transition is not all smooth sailing. Although they are told that nothing would change except the patches on their backs, and they are not even required to pay 10% of their earnings to the higher-ups, he is too inexperienced and is deemed unfit to even become a member of an established Hells Angels chapter. Once again, the former Paradise Bikers have to vouch for him to be accepted to the club. But according to him, he lacks the one thing that other Hells Angels have.
That predator instinct and natural criminality. People who can take advantage of things like the fentanyl epidemic in Canada. They're feeding it.
After the mass patchover, Ontario has a total of 14 Hells Angels chapters, with Toronto alone having 6, which include the 2 Paradise Riders chapters. Atwell gradually earns recognition as one of the best bodyguards and security guards within the chapters, and he is selected for several high-profile roles, such as a meeting held between the chapters to solve a dispute involving the Niagara chapter. The other Toronto chapters argue that the Niagara chapter is made of individuals who are not even bikers, and true to their allegations, the chapter's chairman can't even ride a bike. The national chairman, Stadnick, is the mediator at the meeting, and he explains Niagara chapter had been chosen solely because of its monopoly on drug dealing in the Niagara Peninsula, which later makes it the richest chapter. It is at the meeting that Atwell meets Stadnick, who he finds to be respectful and cordial, but also very careful and mindful of what he says. In the book, The Hard Way Out: My Life with the Hells Angels and Why I Turned Against Them, Atwell explains the privileges that he enjoys as part of the revered Hells Angels biker gang. He says,
Being a Hells Angel is not like being a normal person. You get treated differently by everyone, and you get used to it pretty quickly. If I went to any bar in Scarborough, there would be no doubt that I was not going to wait in line, that there was always a great seat empty for me, and that there would be a cool beer on the table before my butt hit the seat cushion. Of course, there was never any talk of me paying for anything. I couldn't have if I tried. My patch was like an entry pass for anything I wanted, a credit card I never had to pay off. But not all the attention Hells Angels get is positive. My weekdays were spent rolling around Scarborough like some kind of nobleman, visiting the village paupers in my domain. That's really what it felt like, because that's really how people treated me. The club doesn't just take over your life. The club is your life. Being a Hells Angel is not like any other career because there is no off switch. Even when you're not with the club, you're doing something related to the club. You're a Hells Angel 24/7. And the people close to you just have to put up with it.
This paints a picture of just how the Hells Angels establish their authority, and over time, Atwell is sucked into the lifestyle, and things start to fall apart for him. For the first time, he is arrested by the Toronto police in April 2002, while trying to sell drugs to a woman who turns out to be a police informer. He is charged with drug trafficking and released on bail for the next 20 months. During which he incurs large legal debts and is forced to move back into his father's house to save money. The troubles keep mounting when Atwell is fired from the security company that employed him after they discovered that he was a Hells Angel. After being deployed to an event attended by then Prime Minister Paul Martin, a security clearance reveals his association with the club, and he is fired due to the country's fear of losing a contract with the government. On the other hand, his drug charges are stayed for almost 2 years until February 2004, when the judge rules that the police failed to obtain the warrant for the bug that recorded him through the right channels. Having been cleared by the court and released from his job, Atwell shifts all his attention to the Hells Angels activities, eventually attaining not only the full patch status, but also rising up the ranks to become the chapter's sergeant-at-arms. Immediately after getting his life back on track, Atwell is concerned about the state of the Brotherhood in the club, especially as he had hardly gotten any support from his chapter when he was arrested and charged in court. Moreover, he starts to feel like most of the bikers are in the club to satisfy their own greed and not to ride bikes and enjoy time together. He claims most members and even leaders are selfish, looking out only for themselves. At the same time, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, officers approach him and try to recruit him as an informant, which he refuses. However, it takes some thought before he realizes that he wants out. He knows that it is not going to be easy and that he can't just quit, but that's only until the OPP's anti-biker enforcement unit approaches him. Project Develop. In March 2005, Atwell is approached by the anti-biker enforcement unit with an offer that he can hardly turn down. After all, he is already weary of the club's illegal activities and the loss of its core values, and is already looking for a way out. He starts his work as a police informant immediately, as part of an operation the police famously call Project Develop. And while money is not a motivating factor, it helps that he is paid $18.50 every week in exchange for crucial information regarding the Hells Angels members and activities. In September of that year, a fellow Hells Angel approaches Atwell with a plan to kill another police informant. This alerts him to the danger that being an informer comes with, and he becomes an agent informer, meaning he is given a formal contract, immunity, and a lump sum payment in exchange for testifying against club members in court. He insists that he is an informant for moral reasons and also because Jim, his mentor, advises him that he would need the extra money while living under witness protection. He is paid $45,000 and his betrayal of the Hells Angels begins. His first major task as an informant is to wear a wire and record an important Hells Angels asset, Mehrdad Bahman, talking about his submachine gun collection. While the Hells Angels have a strict whites-only policy, Bahman, an Iranian immigrant, is allowed to join them due to his expertise with guns, wrestling, and combat experience. He is often used by the leadership to obtain weapons and carry out missions at the right price. However, the information that Atwell records is not so helpful, and he is under pressure from the police to deliver. Later that year, the Hells Angels National Secretary sends word to the chapter that there is a rat in their ranks, information that she had gotten from a police source. As the search for the police informant intensifies, Atwell is forced to lay low amidst the increasing pressure. Moreover, the secretary and the vice chairman are his friends, having helped him join the club and even played major roles at his wedding, so he feels guilty while recording their conversations together. He once records a conversation in a meeting about members of the Angels Sudbury chapter joining the downtown Toronto chapter, but only their leader, Lorne Campbell, is deemed worthy to join. Atwell befriends Campbell, and they spend a lot of time together, including a weekend at Campbell's cottage in Baysville. But he doesn't divulge his identity as a police informant. With most of the chapters interconnected, the sharing of information between them plays to Atwell's and the police's advantage, as he later records members of the Toronto chapter talking about a failed assassination attempt. The attempt is carried out on the life of a mafiosi by their rival, and the sergeant-at-arms of the Angels London chapter is the assassin. It fails at a Toronto restaurant, where an innocent bystander takes a stray bullet. Alongside Project Develop are other informant projects, such as Project Tandem, coordinated by another informant, the treasurer of the Oshawa chapter. The Project Tandem raids are carried out in September 2006, leading to the arrests of several high-profile members and a state of paranoia, which makes Atwell's work more difficult. The life of an informant becomes harder and harder for Atwell, and he starts abusing cocaine more than usual. This behavior is called out by both his police handlers and his Hells Angels counterparts, and things only get worse from there. His tendency to buy far too many drugs from far too many suppliers at once comes to the attention of the Toronto Hells Angels leaders, who confront him about it and threaten to kill him if he really is the informant. The next day, after being threatened, he is ordered to go into witness protection by his police handlers, and they order a series of raids on Hells Angels clubhouses based on the information gathered by Atwell. Witness protection. The information that Atwell shares with the police leads to the arrests and arraignment of 31 Hells Angels and the seizure of millions of dollars worth of drugs in April 2007. It takes time for the Crown to build a case, and the trial runs between September 2010 and May 2011, with Atwell as the star witness. When Atwell takes the stand, he is nervous, and his credibility as a star witness comes under question when one of the convicts, while acting as his own lawyer, paints him as a violent man who had only become a police informant just to protect himself. At the end of the trial, which comes to be acknowledged as one of the longest-running trials in Canadian history, most of the suspects are convicted of trafficking drugs and illegal possession of weapons, and Atwell's life changes forever. Since 2007, Atwell has lived under witness protection, which he describes as
a lonely life, about moving around and not having any stability. What can I do? I can only imagine getting close to someone. If someone cares about someone, whether it's a friend, a platonic relationship, or an intimate one with the opposite sex, you can only go so far before that person who cares for you asks, well, what happened before that? Where did you come from? I can't share any of that with anyone.
Moreover, he lives in constant paranoia because the Hells Angels are always looking for him, looking to exact their revenge for his betrayal.